Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Whole Life Podcast. I'm Sherilyn Holloway,
And I'm Candace Conaway.
and we're super excited for you to join us and join us with a friend. Sylvia Blakely serves on our Whole Life Project Advisory Committee. Her expertise is after abortion care. Sylvia is the founder of Arise Daughter and Arise Artist, post-abortion mentoring ministries with a mission to help women and men heal, train and serve in the kingdom of God. Sylvia is a registered nurse with a master's of science degree in community health from the Ohio State University. Whoop, 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 whoop. Y'all may not know, but Ohio State is my favorite. I'm from Ohio. I went to Ohio State. So shout out to OH.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Sylvia. Her own abortion journey started over 40 years ago, and she has since been forgiven and set free to help others along their journey. She is a poet, photographer, blogger, and an organizer of pro-life artists who is willing to use her testimony and her art to advance the kingdom of God. Welcome, Sylvia.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
We're
Thank
so
you for
glad you're
having
here.
me, sisters. I love it. Thank you.
So, Sylvia, first, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you do this work.
Well, I am originally from Michigan, and I met my wonderful husband in Toledo, Ohio, ended up becoming a Wolverine Buckeye, and which is
I
just
feel
a
like that's
thing.
an oxymoron. I don't even know if that's
No,
possible.
actually, it's a thing. It's a thing. And so he and I lived in Columbus for close to 20 some years. And he knew about my abortion, but I had never shared it with anyone else. And ended up coming across this beautiful woman who helped me transform my life and come back to Christ in 2001. And after that, I can only say I immediately went from pro-choice to pro-life as I got closer to Christ and knowing what His intention was for my life. And I started volunteering at a pregnancy resource center, and I loved it. I was an abstinence educator, so I was the yucky STD lady. I was the one that brought in all the nasty videos and the slides and talked about, canker sores and all that stuff. But anyway, um, but I noticed on Mother's Day, I was just starting to have breakdowns, and I noticed that I couldn't counsel in the abortion room where women were abortion minded, and I couldn't work the ultrasound machines because I was just too triggered. And I finally figured out that there was something else going on. I had been forgiven by God, but I hadn't been forgiven by myself, and so the pain was what he wanted to heal me from. So in 2020, just as the pandemic was beginning, I took a course in abortion recovery, which at that point I literally did not know was even a thing. And so he forgave me, set me free. And later that year, as the pandemic was really ramping up, I started a virtual ministry called the Rise Daughter. Um, and it was really literally supposed to be for women who had come through an abortion healing program like I had and needed a tribe, just was looking for a healing community. And so that's where we started, that's where we settled, and we started noticing all these artists in the room who were using art to help heal their abortion trauma. And so we just kind of coalesced around that idea. And so now we have Arise Artists, which is also a post-abortion mentoring ministry using art as a conduit toward healing.
Which
So
we
that's
can
what I've
see
been doing
behind
since like
you.
2020.
We see some art behind you. And I know I have a beautiful piece that is hanging on my wall by my desk.
Yes, yes.
It is really a beautiful ministry, and it is one of the softest experiences I have ever had, just being in the room during one of your sessions, just to talk, and just a beautiful soft space for people to join. And so we want to say before we go on that there is no condemnation here. If you have made an abortion choice previously, we offer nothing but love and grace. And so please reach out. We will give Sylvia's information at the end. It's just an open invitation for you. We love you, and we're here for you. We just don't want anyone to feel like during this conversation that you're being condemned in any way or shamed in any way possible. So we're going to dig into, we don't have a lot of time. So we're going to get into some very uncomfortable conversation now. You are certified to facilitate trauma art workshops as a part of Window Between Worlds Healing Network.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to know, here we are, 2024. We used to not see um, women who've made abortion choices and need healing until 10, 15, sometimes 20 years after their abortion. Very similar stories to yours, Sylvia. Um, Now we're seeing them the next day. Now we're hearing from them a week later. Um, can you tell us, with now the RU486 being so readily available via mail, via clinic, what happens during a chemical abortion, and what are you seeing in terms of the effect from the demand?
Mm. Yeah, and before I start, because I am going to just lay it out there for people, because I feel like what isn't happening is informed choice. I feel like people are not really being told the truth about the abortion, the chemical abortion pill. So I'll say this first. If you are at all triggered by anything that I'm going to say, I want to offer the help of some friends of ours at h3helpline.org who will take your call or your text 24/7 and will help walk you through any of the emotions that may be brought up after I tell you what the real deal is. So, that said, imagine a roller coaster going downhill at 80 miles an hour and suddenly being brought to an abrupt stop. That is what the chemical abortion sort of does to a woman's body once the pills are taken and then also sometimes put in vaginally. Um, the woman's body is pro-life, just naturally. Once conception happens, the progesterone that is directed by the not only the woman's body but also the baby at 7 and 8 weeks, the baby begins to produce its own progesterone to keep its own life going. Um, is abruptly stopped by the first drug known as mifepristone. Mifepristone is designed to cut off the progesterone at the receptor sites. So it literally starves the baby. Okay. So that's the first step, typically, of a chemical or pill abortion. Now, a woman ingests that pill oftentimes in the office if she's doing it at a quote unquote healthcare center. But what we know now, as you just brought up, Sherilyn, so many young women are getting these pills online or from friends, or unfortunately, in some cases, if they're being trafficked or coerced, they're being given them and they don't even know they're being given them. Now, your body, which is again pro life, is being abruptly cut off from the source of life for your child and also for you. Progesterone is a feel good hormone for the mom. It helps you sleep, it increases your appetite. Sometimes it makes you a little moody, but for the most part, it is about bringing that baby to full term. So, anytime you stop a term birth, um, it's going to be traumatic for obviously the baby because the baby is being starved to death, but for the mom as well. The next set of pills are called misoprostol, and those are typically given either under the tongue or more likely vaginally. So a woman has to insert these pills on her own. She's not at any clinic. She's not given any other instructions except to put these in. And over time, those pills soften the cervix, cause the uterus to contract, and will expel the baby. Now, if that's all they did, of course, that's bad enough. But misoprostol has some extremely nasty side effects: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, often loss of bowel control, period. And then there's a special protein that's being produced during pregnancy to help keep the mom's blood thin so that there's no blood clots that form. So when you abruptly stop a pregnancy, that protein continues to be produced for a while. That is why so many women hemorrhage right after the pill abortion, because that protein that has kept the blood thin continues to allow the mother to bleed. I have heard of women bleeding 3.5 months after pill abortion, which of course would not be normal in any sense of the word. So there's nothing normal, there's nothing um, natural about the chemical or the pill abortions. They are causing a lot of not only physical damage and trauma to the woman, but also obviously psychological. And we can get into that in a little bit, but I just wanted to give the normal and now what the pills can do abnormally to a woman's body and, of course, the baby.
So tell us about what you do when you encounter the calls from these women that have now faced the reality of like what they have done.
So I think, Sherilyn, when you mentioned that the regret is coming so much quicker for these women, back in my day, they were often twilight abortions. And still, if you're going to have a surgical abortion, oftentimes you're given a cocktail of pills or an IV, and you pretty much don't remember most of the procedure. You may hear things, and those could be triggers later on. For these young women who have experienced pill abortions, what they are seeing is horrific because remember, they are now their own abortionists, right? They've taken this cocktail of pills on their own. Now they're dealing with the aftermath of all of the side effects. Some of the young women who unfortunately are at home when all of the miscarriage, well, I will say miscarriage when I say that the baby is expelled. It's not a miscarriage, it's an abortion. But they oftentimes will see their child in the sack, and that will be extremely traumatic to a mother, especially if this happens over the commode, for example. So they're in the bathroom, this baby that they can see is in the toilet, and now what do you do? I don't think any mother's instinct would be to hit that handle and flush your baby. But that's exactly what most of the women are told from the clinic to do. I had one young woman whose baby literally just dropped out as she stood up from from her desk. These are things that you don't forget. These are lasting traumas. And so when I get those calls or get a text from a young woman, it's typically, I can't breathe. I cannot believe what I just did. I cannot believe what I just saw. I don't know that I will ever get over this. This is something that I wish I had not done. And I don't know that anybody who, was told the full story would do this necessarily. There are some, of course, who would. And trust me, I don't know that anybody could have necessarily talked me out of my abortion, honestly, when I was that abortion minded. But when you have to live with the aftermath by yourself in your own home, in your bathroom, every time you walk into those spaces, those are now triggers for you as a reminder of your abortion. Not only that, that very first period after a pill abortion that's gone really badly can be an extreme trigger for young women because they're expecting to see the exact same thing. They're expecting to experience the negative, effects of just a normal period. And so these are things that will last for sometimes years. We don't even know exactly the total fallout from all of this, because again, this is fairly new enough that unregulated, we're going to see a lot more women traumatized, a lot more women in the emergency department who can't tell their full story because sometimes they've been in states where it's been illegal to have an abortion, and so they make up stories about a miscarriage. That doesn't help the healthcare provider who needs to counteract the effects of the drugs that they've taken. So there's so many, ripples from this that we haven't even addressed yet, but we're starting to. The data is starting to come in, and women are absolutely being traumatized by the pills.
Are there any I mean, I don't want to um minimize trauma as being a side effect. Are there any other medical side effects for having these types of abortions?
Well, immediately, again, what we see is, oftentimes these women have severe hemorrhaging. I've heard of women blacking out in their bathrooms. There, but for the grace of God, they could have bled out. Oftentimes maybe a family member or something will find them, get them to the emergency department where they have to experience blood transfusions. Now, again, that's not something anybody would necessarily want in and of itself, but it's what they need to reverse the effects of all of the blood loss. The nausea, the vomiting, those are things that are mostly uncomfortable, but again, they could last for days. And that's not something that, again, most people are going to anticipate. So we're talking about dehydration, and those kinds of things, hypotension, in other words, low blood pressure. So those are all damaging to the internal organs. Um, so yes, these are things that we're going to continue to have to study and watch as women go through these chemical abortions and the side effects. Will we have all of the data? Probably not, because again, most women go into the emergency department. A lot of them do not say exactly what's been going on with them. So collecting data is going to be difficult. The other thing is oftentimes the clinics won't see these women again. They're expecting them to have a follow-up in the emergency department or with their regular physician. And so if they were even going to collect data, which of course they're probably not going to, or report it, we wouldn't know. So there's going to be a lot of things that we're not seeing yet, Sherilyn, but I think the psychological piece is what's going to be the most damaging over time. Normally when a woman has a period, she produces some clumps of tissue cells that come from her uterus, which is just part of the sloughing period, sloughing of the uterine lining. Most women who see that will think it's their baby again. This is what I'm hearing.
Mm,
Mhm,
mm,
mhm. So they're being triggered by things that we might consider normal,
yeah.
but and they are for a regular period, but they're going to bring them back to the trauma of the pill abortion.
I have a follow-up question
Mm.
for you, Sylvia. Have you heard stories of women who were not able to have children as a result of taking the chemical abortion?
Not so much yet the chemical abortion, but definitely the surgical abortion. When you have a surgical abortion, the physician has to manipulate the cervix using surgical instruments. And so that manipulation is not a normal process. Typically, it happens early in the pregnancy, and so it weakens the cervical wall. Oftentimes, those women, yes, will carry a baby to close to term, but might lose it through miscarriage because the cervix is no longer what we call competent. It's not strong enough to hold a baby in. And so these women end up having either early miscarriages or they have babies at 20, 21 weeks, well before they should be having them. Because again, the cervix is not strong enough because of the manipulation. The other things, of course, is if the cervix has been damaged in any real way, if the uterine lining has been damaged through suction equipment or use of any of the probes. Some women have perforations of their uterus. Oftentimes that will prevent implantation of eggs later on, and sometimes those women are infertile. So there could be a lot of reasons depending on how the abortion was done as to whether women will, not just conceive, because of conception, that's just part of it. It's the implantation and the carrying of the baby for the full gestational period. That's what can be, yeah, severely, severely damaged and traumas. Yeah.
So we hear in our space a lot about abortion pill reversal.
Mm,
Um, and it's being argued all over the country of whether it is effective or it's not effective. Should it be called reversal? Should it not be called, or should it be legal? Is it illegal? Can you help us understand what the abortion reversal pill is?
mm. Well, first of all, if you are wondering whether or not you have a potential to reverse, you only really have about 72 hours to make that decision. So, about within 3 days, you need to decide, okay, this is not what I wanted to do. I took that first pill, and I don't want to abort my baby. So, you will have to contact the Abortion Pill Reversal Network, and you will have to find a provider with a network who is willing to go the distance with you to get you um, the in, the injectable progesterone. That's going to be the most potent to keep your baby. So again, we talked about progesterone being progestation. Once that once that whole hormonal imbalance happens, the doctor has to give you progesterone artificially to start that whole loop back up so that you can again nourish your baby, keep your baby. If that doesn't happen within 72 hours, typically the abortion will continue. Um, Supposedly, about 68% of abortion pill reversals, if done very early, come to some good outcome. In other words, the mom can stay pregnant and can deliver the baby. Now, that's pretty amazing. But you have to get in to see the physician soon. You have to agree to all of the injected shots that you're going to need over the period of time that you're going to need them. And usually it's through I think the first trimester in order to make sure that the baby thoroughly implanted and has the best environment that it can have. So it's not that they haven't been using injectable progesterone. Women who have IVF have been using it for a long time. So it has a track record. It definitely has a track record. And I applaud whoever it was that decided this is exactly how we can use it to help women make a choice that a lot of times they really don't want to make, Sherilyn.
Yeah.
Abortion is not usually their first decision. And when they come to that regret so quickly, it's amazing that they have an option now where they can. Now, here's the other thing. If it doesn't work, we have to be prepared to work with those young women who now have a double guilt, right? They first took the abortion pill and now their reversal doesn't work. So there's a lot of work that's going to have to be done. Again, we're just getting into a lot of this. Um, the guilt and shame can cripple women for a long time. So we're going to have to continue to watch and just meet women where they are in this. Find out their whole story. That comes though through relationship and trust. And so I know we'll talk a little bit more about this as well, but when you're initially working with somebody, it really is just listening to them. Like you said, it's creating that soft space where they can share their stories. Um, you don't come right in with advice. You come right in with that compassionate heart to hear where it is they are. Yeah.
So kind of piggybacking off of that, I want to highlight that you are the author and illustrator of a soon-to-be-released children's book titled Beauty Monarch. It's going to help parents speak to the whole life issues. But the thing I'm most excited about is the Arise and Fly Free, a post-abortion healing curriculum for African American women.
Yeah.
Um, so those who don't know, I'm also post-abortive, and I've spoken in spaces, and one of the questions I get asked was getting asked all the time was like, how do we get more, Black or African American women to be a part of our, you know, healing Bible studies or retreats and I said, well, I spoke at one and it was predominantly Black women at a predominantly Black church. And I was like, and then Sylvia has, her um program is predominantly women of color. And I said, so it can be done, but I don't do it. So I'm not really sure. Here are the people you need to call. And so I'm very excited that you have taken, your journey in this. And I will tell you all, Sylvia and I've had this conversation. What she has created is so in depth, and she has taken so much time, years to cultivate things. She has pretty much done every post-abortion healing curriculum that is offered, to really try to figure out what's missing, what can she glean, and has created this beautiful thing. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I can't wait to promote it. Um, and so Sylvia, can you again just tell us a little bit about the work you do with the Rise Daughter, how people can reach you, and what we're going to see in the future from you?
Mm. A lot of the work that I do, honestly, on a nightly basis, is I visit a Facebook page called "I Regret My Abortion," and I do that under my own profile. I don't go under as a Rise Daughter, because I want people to see my face. And what I'm finding out as I am ministering in these spaces is that young Black women are DMing me later and going, "I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I don't know that I can trust my stuff with everybody." I will say this, the space that I healed in and the spaces I've been healing in have been predominantly white. So trust when I tell you Holy Spirit can do whatever he needs to do, wherever he needs to do, with whoever he needs to do it. However,
Hey,
when God downloaded the seeds for this book, it was clear to me that he had something special for his daughters who had been brought here in chains, whose bodies were not theirs, who had no autonomy, no agency over their bodies. And so when oftentimes women of color make an abortion decision, it can be backed by a lot of history that we don't even consider, and that sometimes young women don't even understand, right? How the road to abortion got them to where they are. So that was important for me, first of all, to be obedient to what Holy Spirit said and write it down. And then, as you said, I had to go through it and decide, is this going to be something new? Um, and he said, yeah, it will be because it's going to bring in our history. Our history as Black women in this country. And so, filtering through all of that, we still have the lens of Christ, though, that we, as Christian women, have to come to a decision about. Okay, then, if, even still, given our history here, whose choice was it for life and death? And so that's kind of where the book gently gets us into. It starts with, like I said, the facts. And these are going to be hard things for some women of color even to read, more or less our Caucasian sisters. But our history is our history, and I feel as if we have to address that. So going forward, I really want this to be a curriculum where um, nobody has to hide behind their past. Our past is our past. The only way it can haunt us is if we don't address it. So a lot of the beginning of the book does start with a lot of our history here. It also goes chapter by chapter into the grief process. So we still address the grief process, but we do it through the lens of these are things that we as African American women were never given permission to grieve over. How many times are we just feel we're even too busy at this point to deal with our grief? It's something we triage, we put a bandage on, we roll it off to the side, and we keep it moving because we have so many other layers of our life we have to deal with. And I feel like this book, through God, is saying, I want you, my daughter, to take time to feel, to acknowledge, to grieve, and then to feel my love as I bring you back into the fold. So what's going to come, I hope, later will be a book for young adults, so we can talk about what it means to properly date and how to hold your body as a temple that it is. I'd love to have a book later for men because we know their process is completely different for healing. But if 1 in 4 women have been involved in an abortion, most likely 1 in 3 men have, because men often have multiple abortions with multiple women in their past. So we got a lot of work to do, and I feel like it's something that now God is making a lane for women of color, especially Black women, to have their own space where they can feel comfortable.
That's awesome, Sylvia. I have a question. What is your favorite chapter from your book, or one of your favorite chapters?
I would say walking in freedom.
Okay.
Walking in freedom, yes, because ultimately that's where we want to go. God can do so much with a free woman. When we're still bound and we're still condemning ourselves, or we're still ignoring, or we're still numbing, or we're still doing those things, it's hard for him to use us because our will isn't free, right? So when we are completely free and we understand that his forgiveness has covered all, his blood has covered all, that all he ever had wanted for us was a whole and abundant life. Um, then when those women are unleashed, and you already know, Black women can get everything done. You see what I mean? There ain't nothing we can't do, right? So you're talking about a completely free woman. I don't even know who about to get released in this, but I know that some amazing ministries, some amazing testimonies, some amazing, discipling opportunities are going to come out of this. I don't think that God would have given it to me in vain. I know he didn't. So, yeah, what's going to happen is going to be tremendous. And I probably won't live to see it all, but I'm just grateful that we're getting it started because we need it. We've been needing it. It's time. It's time.
Thank you so much. How can you be reached? What are your socials? What's your email? What's your website?
So yeah, you can hook up with us on social at Arise Daughter FL. So that's our Facebook and Instagram handle. TikTok, we're most active at Arise Daughter 3. So the number 3. And our Gmail is arisedaughter@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. And our website is ariseartists.com. So we will welcome you into the fold. Just reach out to me. Let me know what your needs are. I typically start with a one-on-one conversation with you by phone or Zoom. And then we go there as to what kind of healing you want to do. If you want it intensive, you want it one-on-one, you want a small group. we try to customize it to whatever your needs are. So I'm just grateful to be able to walk alongside women who are ready um, to be reconciled about their abortion. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. This has been tremendous.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. I
Yes,
mean,
thank you for coming. This was
you
a
spoke so
very
much. I
fruitful
was like,
conversation.
oh my gosh, we need more time, more time.
Yes, more time.
Yes,
We need
Abortion
Sylvia part
Recovery Month.
two.
Yes, yes.
So please do. Yes, Abortion Recovery Month is this month. So watch our socials. If you like what you see, please share them. I'm doing intensively talking about it. And share if you can. My testimony is on YouTube. There's an opportunity for you to hear my full story and to know why, if you haven't yet chose abortion, why you shouldn't.
Well, thank you so much, Sylvia. It's
You're
been a
welcome.
pleasure. Well, thank you all for watching. We ask that you reach out to Sylvia if you want to just talk to her, if you want to interview her yourself, or you know somebody that needs to connect with her. You can reach out to Candace and I also if you need a middleman first. But just thank you again. Again, this is Abortion Recovery Month, and we are just really trying to get information out there to all of you all and get the truth so that we can all be set free. Again, I'm Sherilyn Holloway,
I'm Candace Conaway.
and thank you so much for joining. See you next time.
See ya.